Scorpio, this year-end will be unlike any other you've ever experienced, and you already know it. You can feel it in the air, in the way you breathe differently now, in the way your heart beats with a different rhythm. Something has changed, not superficially, profoundly. You are no longer who you were at the beginning of this year, not even remotely. And this year-end will be the physical, tangible, real confirmation of a truth you've been feeling for months. You died and were reborn. And the person who will celebrate the turn of the year this year has nothing to do with the person who celebrated the last one. In previous New Year's Eves, you carried a heavy burden. You carried pain disguised as hope. You carried wounds covered by forced smiles. You entered the new year with resolutions that deep down were just desperate attempts to fix what was broken in yourself, in others, in situations. You toasted surrounded by people, but felt completely alone. You celebrated achievements that didn't truly fulfill you. You feigned enthusiasm for futures you weren't sure you wanted to live. But what about the end of 2025? Completely different. For the first time in your adult life, you'll enter the new year fully present. Not pretending to be okay, truly being okay. Not waiting for external things to complete you, already complete inside. Not depending on anyone to validate your existence, knowing exactly who you are and how much you're worth. And that's a little scary, isn't it? Because you got used to the version of yourself that was always at war, always in survival mode, always waiting for the next battle. And now, for the first time, you are at peace, real peace. And you almost don't recognize what it's like to live like this. Let me tell you exactly what makes this year-end so radically different from all previous ones. In past years, you ended the year taking painful stock, counting how many times you were betrayed, how many promises were broken, how many people disappointed you, how many situations didn't go as planned. Your gratitude list was always forced, desperately searching for reasons to be thankful amidst so much chaos and pain. You entered the new year with hope mixed with fear, hope that it would be different, fear that it would be more of the same. This year, you're not afraid, and this absence of fear is so unusual for you that it's sometimes disorienting. You're ending the year not counting wounds, but counting victories, not lamenting those who left you, but celebrating who you've become in their absence, not waiting for things to get better, knowing that you already are better. Your gratitude list this year doesn't need to be forced. It overflows naturally because you finally understand that everything, absolutely everything, that happened this year, even the most painful parts, was necessary to bring you exactly where you are now. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, this year-end marks the definitive closure of a cycle of toxic relationships. You won't enter the new year carrying any energy from people who don't deserve you. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, this year-end represents the consolidation of a new professional identity or purpose. You finally know what you came here to do and will no longer waste time on things that don't make sense to your soul. And for those born between November 13th and 21st, this year-end is about recognition and visibility. You've spent years hiding, protecting yourself, invisible. But now, you're ready to be seen, and not by just anyone, but by the right people. But what unites all Scorpios in this very different end of the year is this. For the first time, you're not trying to be someone else. You're not molding yourself to fit other people's expectations. You're not hiding parts of yourself to be accepted. You're not lowering your intensity so as not to bother anyone. You are brutally, magnificently, completely yourself. And that changes everything. Because when you stop pretending to be what you're not, you automatically attract only what is genuinely yours. Scorpio, this year-end will be different because you'll be celebrating it with different people. In previous years, you found yourself surrounded by people who drained your energy, who only sought you out when they needed something, who appeared in your life when it was convenient and disappeared when you needed them. You toasted with people you weren't sure if they truly liked you or just what you did for them. You felt obligated to include people in your celebrations, even knowing they wouldn't include you in theirs. But this year, you did a brutal cleansing of your circle. You cut ties that bound you to old versions of yourself. You distanced yourself from people who insisted on treating you as you were, instead of recognizing who you've become. You closed doors that had been half open for years, draining your energy with maybes and what-ifs. And now, in this different year-end, you will celebrate surrounded only by people who truly matter. And if that means celebrating alone, even better. Because you learned that chosen solitude is infinitely superior to toxic company. And here's something powerful. This year-end will be different because you're no longer making desperate resolutions. In previous years, your New Year's resolutions were always attempts to fix what was wrong. I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to earn more money, I'm going to find someone, I'm going to be happier. Always with an energy of, I'm not enough as I am, I need to change drastically to be acceptable. Always starting from a place of lack, of inadequacy, of not being enough. But what about this year-end? Your intentions for the coming year don't stem from lack, they stem from abundance. They come from a place of, I am amazing, and now I'm going to use that power to create even more extraordinary things. You're no longer trying to fix yourself. You're ready to expand. You're no longer trying to fill voids. You're ready to multiply the fullness you've already achieved. And this shift in energy completely changes the kind of year you'll attract. This year-end will be different because you will enter the new year without emotional debt. In previous years, you carried so much emotional weight from one year to the next. Unresolved resentments, unspoken words, avoided confrontations, swallowed truths. You entered the new year still energetically tied to situations and people from the past, still owing apologies you didn't owe, still waiting for apologies that would never come, still carrying guilt for things that were never your responsibility. But you did the work this year, the dirty, painful, necessary work of processing everything, of feeling everything, of releasing everything. You cried the tears you needed to cry. You screamed the anger you needed to scream. You confronted the truths you needed to confront. And now you are free, energetically cleansed, emotionally cleared. You owe nothing to anyone, and no one owes you anything. You are entering the next year with your hands empty of weight and open to receive new things. Scorpio, this year-end will be different because for the first time, you're not looking back with regret. In previous years, you ended the year mentally reviewing everything that went wrong, all the choices you regretted, all the opportunities you missed, all the people you should have valued more or should have cut off sooner. You entered the new year burdened with should have and if only. But this year, when you look back, you don't feel regret. You feel gratitude. Gratitude even for the most painful experiences because they taught you exactly what you needed to learn. Gratitude for the people who hurt you because they showed you who you no longer want to be and what kind of person you no longer want to attract. Gratitude for the darkest moments because it was in them that you discovered you had your own light. You wouldn't change anything you experienced this year because everything brought you to this moment of fullness and clarity. And here's what makes this year-end truly revolutionary. You're no longer afraid of the future. Scorpio has always had a complex relationship with the future. Part of you wants to control every detail, predict every possibility, ensure you won't be caught off guard. Another part of you is afraid of the unknown, of what might go wrong, of how you might get hurt again. So you oscillated between obsessively trying to control and being completely paralyzed by fear. But this year-end, you're entering the future with a quiet confidence you've never had before. Not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you finally trust yourself to handle whatever comes your way. You no longer need to control everything, because you know you're strong enough, wise enough, resilient enough to navigate any storm. You're no longer afraid of being hurt because you know you survive, heal, and emerge stronger from anything. This year-end will be different because you will celebrate it with a different body. Not necessarily physically different, but energetically transformed. In previous years, your body carried the tension of all the unresolved battles. Your muscles were constantly contracted, prepared for the next attack. Your nervous system was always on high alert, never truly resting. You lived in perpetual survival mode. But this year, you finally learned to relax. Your body is no longer in a constant state of war. You breathe more deeply. You sleep more peacefully. Your nervous system has finally understood that it is safe. And this physical change reflects the profound change that has occurred at every level of your being. You are not just mentally different, you are cellularly transformed. For many Scorpios, this year-end will be different because you'll be in different physical locations as well. You've moved, you've changed cities, you've left behind environments that suffocated you. You've found spaces that allow you to breathe. And if you haven't moved physically yet, you've moved energetically, creating distance from everything that imprisoned you, even if you still occupy the same geographical space. And here's something that will surprise you this year-end. You'll realize you no longer feel envious. In previous years, when you saw other people celebrating achievements, trips, relationships, a part of you felt a pang of envy. You compared your life to others and always felt you were lacking, always feeling like you were behind, that you hadn't achieved enough, that others were happier, more successful, more fulfilled. But at the end of this year, when you see other people celebrating, you feel genuine joy for them, because you finally understood that life isn't a competition, that the success of others doesn't diminish your possibilities, that each person has their own process, and you are exactly where you need to be in yours. You're no longer looking to the sides comparing yourself, you're looking inward and celebrating. Scorpio, this year-end will be different because you'll enter the new year with completely new expectations. In previous years, your expectations were always tinged with skepticism. You expected to be disappointed because you had been so many times before. You kept your hopes low as a protective mechanism. You didn't allow yourself to dream too big for fear of falling. But this holiday season, you're allowing your expectations to be high. Not naively or disconnected from reality, but in an empowered way, knowing that you deserve extraordinary things. You're no longer settling for crumbs. You're no longer accepting good enough. You're claiming excellence, abundance, real joy. And you know you have the power to create exactly that. This year-end will also be different because you're no longer trying to prove anything to anyone. In previous years, a part of you was still trying to prove your worth to people who underestimated you, still seeking validation from those who rejected you, still wanting to show everyone that you were okay, that you had overcome, that you were strong. Your achievements were often motivated by this desire to prove something, but this holiday season, you no longer care what those people think. Your achievements are for you, not for an audience. Your happiness is real, not performative. Your strength doesn't need to be displayed because it's simply who you are now. You've stopped living for external approval and started living for internal satisfaction. And this change frees up an immense amount of energy that was being wasted trying to impress people who don't matter. And here is perhaps the biggest difference this year-end. You are no longer waiting to be saved. In previous years, part of you still believed that someone or something external would come and solve your problems. You waited for the perfect job that would change everything, for the ideal person who would complete you, for the magical opportunity that would transform your life. You entered the new year hoping that this time finally your salvation would come from outside. But this year-end, you understood the most liberating truth of all. You are your own savior. No one comes to rescue you because you don't need rescuing. You have everything within you to create the life you desire. The power has always been yours, and now that you've awakened to this power, there's no limit to what you can manifest. This year-end will be different because you'll be celebrating real achievements, not just survival. In previous years, you celebrated surviving another year. You celebrated not completely collapsing. You celebrated still being on your feet, even after everything you faced. And those were valid achievements. But this year, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're not just standing, you're dancing. You're not just enduring, you're enjoying. Your achievements this year weren't just about resisting. They were about creating, about manifesting, about transforming. You didn't just survive toxic relationships, you created space for authentic connections. You didn't just leave negative environments, you built sanctuaries of peace. You didn't just process trauma, you transmuted pain into wisdom. Your victories this year were active, not passive. Scorpio, as you approach this very different end of the year, I want you to pause and truly absorb the magnitude of your transformation. The distance between who you were at the beginning of this year and who you are now is astronomical. You haven't just changed superficially. You've completely reinvented yourself. You've died to old versions of yourself that no longer served you. You've been reborn in forms you can barely recognize at times. And this year-end will be a celebration of that metamorphosis. It won't be about feigning joy you don't feel. It will be about feeling real joy for having survived the storm and discovered that you are made of thunder. It won't be about empty resolutions. It will be about powerful intentions rooted in the certainty of who you have become. It won't be about blind hope. It will be about confidence grounded in a deep knowledge of your own power. This year-end is different because you are different. Radically, permanently, wonderfully different. And the coming year will not find you as previous years found you, broken, lost, desperate for change. It will find you whole, centered, ready to manifest the extraordinary life you now know you deserve. Share in the comments simply, "I was reborn." These two words carry the weight of everything you've experienced this year. The death that was necessary, the rebirth that was inevitable, the transformation that changed absolutely everything. And when you declare this, you are energetically marking this end of the year as the definitive milestone between who you were and who you have become. Subscribe to the channel now because I'll continue to support you in this upcoming year, which promises to be the most extraordinary of your life so far. I'll guide you on how to maintain this transformed energy, how to avoid falling back into old patterns, and how to continue evolving from this new level you've reached. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that will keep you connected to this powerful version of yourself. This year-end is different because you are different. And next year will be different because you are entering it as a force of nature, transformed, empowered, unstoppable. Celebrate this with all the intensity a reborn Scorpio deserves to celebrate. You survived, you won, you were reborn, and now you are ready to fly.